Yeah. Just it's a random noise. Welcome to In My Podcast Era, a podcast where I sit down with all my favorite creators to chat about their past, present, and future eras. And today on the show, I have a very special guest. He's an absolute goat. He's a DJ who's played all across the country, like every festival you can ever imagine, right?
A few, yeah.
A lot of them.
Not Coachella yet.
Not Coachella.
Or Burner Man, but we'll get there.
We'll get there. We're working towards it. An MC, music producer, radio presenter, and Triple J, curator of the sickest sounds, and event extraordinaire. It's the one, the only Shantan, Wantan, Ichiban, do.
In the building.
Let's
We're
go.
Here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on my podcast. I'm really excited. The first question I'm kind of asking everyone is, what era do you think you're currently in?
Well, I'm in my merch era, as you can see from the shirt
Oh,
that you're wearing. Representing my merch here. More seriously speaking to the question, I feel like at the moment I'm like in a good time where I started a new job at Triple J like over the last year and a half, where I'm on an earlier time slot from 6 on a Friday, and I feel like there's an opportunity for me to kind of cement myself in the Australian music scene. And that's what I'm trying to really do, working on music at the same time as doing the events that I've been running. But yeah, definitely trying to, use the music that I've been working on and the radio platform that I have to try and reach new audiences.
And you're really doing it, like tuning into your shows and like hearing your mixes. 9 times out of 10, I'll always hear like a flip or a track. It feels like I've gone back in time to like, you had to kind of search for those little golden nuggets.
Yeah.
We're in a space where when you're capitalizing on your stuff, it's so easy to just do your job. But I feel like you're really someone who brings like a little bit extra into everything you do.
I mean, look, I think you're doing a weekly party show and you're just trying to find different flips and little, I guess, creative ways of like doing fun party tracks that a lot of us all know. So like those remixes and flips are just a great way of kind of giving you something familiar, but it's not the same track that you've heard,
over and
over again. But you still love it. It's got like, so many nostalgic sing-along things to it.
I think this is the really exciting time, like with TikTok and all these sounds and everything coming up and stuff. I feel like there's been like a resurgence in the SoundCloud era.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's really where back in the days I was digging through the crates, and now it's like, back into like searching right through SoundCloud, like every single corner. Is that where you find a lot of your stuff? Or
yeah, definitely. I feel like a bit of part of the community in SoundCloud, and like I feel like SoundCloud was having a resurgence maybe over the last few years, but then TikTok just took it to another level. And it's amazing to see, I guess, a lot of the producers who've been doing stuff on SoundCloud just reaching new audiences, going viral on TikTok, particularly the ones I guess put on the work to create that video content.
It's kind of weird because like people have like a 50-50 attitude to this, right? Like they're either like so resistant of people who are creating in the new space and specifically for it, and then there's people that are like, why the fuck wouldn't we capitalize on that opportunity to create something that could potentially have like a massive impact? Where do you sit?
I mean, look, I think for some personalities, I don't know, man. There are some producers who are a little bit more recluse, and they just want to create content and put it up, and they're not necessarily going to spend, quite a bit of time that's involved in creating good video content, or maybe it's not who they are, but it just depends on what you want from your music, So it's great to see artists like Austin Mills. I don't know if you know him, but he's been putting a lot of work into his TikTok content and just worked out ways of making it fun and engaging and creating sounds that other people want to use, basically. What the interesting thing about TikTok is like, you can really just blow up off a 15-second idea. You don't like, you don't even,
That's
you don't have to actually, you just come up with a great loop. And if you know how to work it, you can, it doesn't even need to be an entire song. It's funny as people blow up off a great loop and then just have to turn it into an entire song.
That's what I'm thinking about. Like, do they like, like you got to go to the studio, you got to get that shit mixed and all that stuff.
You go like, oh shit, I need to work some changes into this song.
It's kind of crazy. That little bit of like, if you can blow up off 15 seconds is wild, because I feel like that can apply to everything. And like one of the things I've kind of been discussing with people is, I think for a lot of people starting out, they're really worried about not having the full package or the full ideas before they launch. You as a and I hate this fucking word, multidisciplinary, we're just all creators creating. You as a creator, like you stepped into so many different spheres. Where did that initial like drive or support or self-belief,
I don't know. Like sometimes you just feel like, I don't know, with a lot of stuff you kind of need to learn how to do it yourself. Like when I was doing parties, I just learned how to do Photoshop and did my own. I learned one thing, just how to cut shit out, and then I was off. and then you just learn the rest by Googling it. My first flyers, I look back at them, they're pretty trash. But I still got people to the party, so something was working.
Hey, shout out to Cam. Shout out to Canva.
Yeah, and you get better eventually, and I guess I don't know. It's interesting in the current social media era. You just need now you need to be a movie director for fucking TikTok, and it's getting more competitive. I feel like
Definitely.
yeah, as more people engage with the.
I think it's good though. I think it's like important because the way that it's kind of evolving in the industry, it's really turning into this freelance solo dolo like kind of vibe shit.
Yeah.
It's important, and it's skills that regardless if you start out doing them or you eventually have to learn, you do have to develop and work on. Like you have to know how to market yourself. You need to know how to structure yourself as the product when you're asking people to spend money for you to do this, essentially.
It feels like if you do something yourself, you kind of know what the end product's going to be, and it's just easier than going back and forth with somebody else. Often,
Literally,
it's just if you can work out how to do it yourself.
Yeah,
you know.
How does that make you feel? Like, are you someone that collaborates with other people when it comes to your processes?
Oh, I do. Look, there are points also. Like, I think there's limitations of trying to do everything yourself too, and if, I think as things grow, you kind of. It's good to be able to outsource. But if you've learned how to do these things yourself, you can kind of know what somebody else can add on to what you do.
Yeah.
You know, or what they can do that you can't. And yeah, it gives you a better understanding of what they're doing as well.
Yeah, fully. Australia has this huge, like, I don't know, tall poppy syndrome, whatever it's called, mentality. And for me to step into the person I am today, it took a lot of building a really good community and support. And a lot of my friends are feminine, non-binary energies, and that language is really there. But you came up, like, how long have you been in the game for?
I don't know, a minute, like a little bit.
And I feel like you were
probably 10 years of DJing,
Yeah, you were pre that era of like all those mental health chats. And where did the courage and motivation to kind of like pursue everything you do come from? Like, did you feel supported by like your friends in your community? Was it all internally driven? Like
I feel like people are a lot more supportive of each other these days. And there was a generation that would try and tear you down. You know what I mean? But I also think the internet era is interesting as well. When I was growing up, you would be seen as a poser posting endless amounts of photos of yourself. And also when we got on Instagram, it was just posting photos of your food. It was a real transition of like being comfortable with posting this many selfies, you know, and like, because otherwise you'd be seen as a little bit too into yourself.
Yeah.
I still think and it's still a struggle for me, to be honest.
Yeah, I still feel like that's an issue. Like, and especially like it holds a lot of people back because it's like I think people struggle with, you know, looking at themselves as a product and as a person. Because, you know, the voices of your community get so loud and whatever, but you also have to sell yourself.
Yeah,
it's an important part of the process.
Yeah.
What advice would you have for like, you know, young kids coming up trying to pursue this stuff that are concerned with all of that? Like,
I mean, it's cliches, but just do you. I guess you just got to find something you're passionate about and just let what you love guide you. You don't know what you're going to do in the end. I think you just roll with the opportunities and just follow the stuff you're passionate about. Yeah.
That seems so like second nature to like us after you like build the habit of doing it. But for someone that has never done that before, or hasn't seen the benefits of the taking risks, like what tools do you think you can like access to like get going?
If you're doing it for the love, you won't set yourself up for disappointment. It sounds obvious, but yeah, do look on the positive sides of what you're doing. And I think if you're just doing the thing, like you're just DJing for the fun of DJing to whoever's there, you're just putting out music for whoever wants to listen to it and for yourself in the process of doing it, then I think you're going to be happy in what you do.
That's a tool in itself, like to, you know, actively practice, and maybe it's something you've done subconsciously, but actively practicing to focus on the positives of the situation over the anxieties of what if, will I be around tomorrow? Will radio be here? Will we go into lockdown again? I don't have gigs. Like that's a reality, right? That's a possibility, but choosing to outweigh that shit. Really want to know how you got started in everything, because I feel like I saw you and you were already like so established with everything, but like when you were starting out, like what was that world like for you? Like were you working like part-time somewhere, or did you just go
I got into FBI just by volunteering there, just doing some stuff. Somebody to do a late night hip hop show, so through that I got into DJing. People started getting me DJ gigs, and I couldn't DJ, but I was like, all right, I'll go and do them, and I suck. That's fine. And then I was like, all right, I gotta learn how to do this properly. So I bought myself a laptop and just borrowed a mixer from somebody and one turntable. And I realized, because Serato was coming around and everything got easier. You know?
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, because I have friends with DJs and they DJ on vinyl. I was like, no, I'm not going to do this. It's too tough. I was trying to rap back then.
Yeah.
So
In your rapping era.
yeah. So through the following I had from the radio, I started putting on parties and DJing them, and they all just kind of popped off. And I haven't really stopped putting on parties since then. And you kind of can't really, to be honest, with putting on events. You kind of just need to keep going because the audience you start off with is not the one you're going to end off with. And I mean, obviously there's people who stay with what you do and they come in and out depending on, whether they want to go out or not, but you always kind of reconnect with new audiences continually, you know?
Shantan history lesson 101.
But it's just interesting to see a lot of stuff that you love come around again. And just grow and become bigger and bigger.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy because I think that's the era we're in, where everything's just recycling.
But I feel like a lot of the genres which were big maybe in the 2000s, they weren't big. They were big, but they were undergrounds, and there was so much going on in the 2000s that, for grime, for instance, and ballet funk, they were underground, but the mainstream just didn't F with them. In the UK, grime artists couldn't get on the radio, but it was only till the internet era that Skepta was able to blow up, you know? He went for a whole era, in the 2000s where he was doing, he'd do dance songs to try and cross over to radio.
In the 2000s?
Yeah, Skepta has been around since ever, and he only blew up in the 2010s.
And that's why you have to stick it the fuck out.
But I think, I don't know, my opinion on this era is that because of the internet, I don't know, it's been great for local music movements. So I think a lot of people who worked in commercial radio stations who set the agenda of what was popular probably just took cues from the US in the UK and what was big in the international offices of, record labels and that sort of thing.
Yeah, or what they were told to push.
Yeah. And so, these genres would pop off for a little while. So reggaeton had a little moment in the 2000s. Dancehall had a little moment in the 2000s internationally, but then they lose interest. While now I think it can maintain because you've got that local support. People can get the music direct from the artists.
It's accessible.
But it's happening all over the world.
It comes down to accessibility, though.
It does. From local Australian hip hop from the western suburbs that might not have really got a look in on commercial radio or whatever, is doing bigger numbers than anything else. And you're seeing that with French drill. You're seeing it with all sorts of things everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For real. Beyond working as your own brand and stuff, you also work behind people and with artists, right?
Yeah, I was doing some management before, and I used to work with Heaps Decent. So I was working with kids doing workshops, music workshops and stuff like that. Yeah. So I did do a bit of that. I was managing an artist called Kobe D for a while.
Yeah.
From
your
hood.
Yeah. Shout out.
I got into the management side really just for recording Kobe and working in the studio with him. Yeah, just recording and just having fun, working on their songs and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and from your experience, I guess, what advice would you have for up and coming artists right now? You're working on radio. I guess you have a lot of people approach you for advice. I know we touched on just going for things, but if someone's wanting to start today, what would you advise them?
I mean, I reckon just do songs and put them out single by single. Each song is a new piece of content. Until you get to a position where people demand an album. If you look at people's EPs, albums, 1 or 2 songs will stream off it.
Yeah.
And the rest won't. But if you did each one of those by itself, then it'd probably get more streams. And these days, you've got to have content for social media. And you don't know which one's going to get attention. So you might as well just do each piece by itself. Don't need to spend money on an entire video.
Bro, this is what I mean. Shout out to Kwame, because he's been doing this so well. People think they can just transcend all these learnings, right? We know that long form video now, you need to keep people's retention, hold them on, and it's why create a piece of art when you're not listening to the insights? And I think if you have something really important to say, someone like Kendrick, right? I'm just using him as an example. Yeah. Whether or not he had the clout, the fame, whatever, when he's doing his music videos, everything is a story and a piece of art. Yeah. And if you're going to offer your art in that form, I say fucking go and invest in it. But when it comes down to it, it's not something that just needs to be done anymore. You can get creative.
It depends. You have to work out whether it's worth it for you.
So You seem like a pretty happy dude. I always see you and smiling, giggling and stuff. I want to like talk like deep for a hot second. Like, do you feel like the pressure ever gets to you with everything and like not knowing when the next thing's coming or whatever? And how do you navigate that?
Look, I'm in a pretty good position. Like, I'm not too worried for the immediate future.
Yeah.
Like, as far as, work and all that sort of stuff's concerned. And lockdown was pretty chill for me. But I was lucky that I had radio. I was doing that, and like, obviously I didn't have any DJ and event work, but it was kind of like a nice break to kind of work on other stuff. I wasn't in a position where I was super worried about my financial situation.
Have you ever been?
I've been broke for a while, which is good. And hopefully not anytime soon. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe there's a little bit of existential dread, for the future, but I just bury that deep within and just keep going.
That's healthy.
Bottling shit up is underrated.
Yeah, for real. I guess honestly, there's times where you can just tell yourself to shut up.
Yeah, but you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, the world is chaos.
Do you find peace in accepting that?
I just think it's reality. You
That's
might buy a
true.
house, but you don't know if there's going to be a world war and that house will be worthless.
That's so true. Yeah. Yeah, wow. You just have like such a chill view on it all. I'm like here sitting like writing in my journal. Like, what am I doing?
So I don't know. You got to kind of live your life and live it for the moment to
Yeah.
some extent.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Maybe I should be more worried than what I am.
Nah, I think it's good. I think you got to be present. You just got to like write it. And that's like, this is the goal, right? To have that mentality and energy of just like, accept it for what it is. The world's a fucked up place and you just got to survive and strive.
Yeah, basically, you're just trying to do stuff I enjoy and take opportunities as they come. And once you take one opportunity and you do well at something, it's going to lead to something else. And hopefully I get through life like that.
Yeah, sweet. That's all we have time for today, but thank you so much for joining me on my podcast.
Now, thank you for having me. I'm used to asking questions and not answering them.
Yeah.
So it's always weird for me when I have to actually divulge something about myself.
Yeah, well, thanks. Honestly, thanks for sharing. Like, I hope people like take some things away from today. If you like this episode, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and stay tuned for more in my podcast era.